Let's talk about balance today, and what I mean by balance and why am I even talking about this. Every day I'm asked to make a bunch of decisions. Every day I'm given information and I essentially need to choose whether we go left or right, whether I say blue or red, whether I say on or off, one or two. I need to make a bunch of decisions. And those decisions are based on information that I get, and I need to determine, and this is an ever ongoing line, where's that balance? Because we get pulled, or I get pulled, in multiple different directions all at the same time. And my job, and one of the hardest parts of my job essentially, is determining where's that balance. And that's ever changing, that's ever evolving, and that consistently and continuously is not a particular point in time. It's not a particular area that moves. It's ever changing. It's ever, it's live. It's evergreen. And it's this idea that, again, going back to one of my most difficult, one of the hardest things for me to do is to figure out where that balance is. So let's talk about it a little bit more concretely. So you've got developers that are asking for X, and then you've got investors that are asking for Y, and you've got the community that's saying, let's go in this direction. You've got these different stakeholders, etc. Everybody's pulling and tugging in different directions. And ultimately, my job in the ENF is to make decisions based on the information that I get to decide, okay, well, where do we go? And that balance then becomes affected by the previous decision that is made. And so if maybe one time the developers are asking for something and other people are asking for something else, and even within developers there are different, let's say, factions, etc., then at some point when you make that decision, now it changes the new point in time. And that now influences where the next time that balance is going to lie, where that middle ground is essentially going to lie, where ideally what you're trying to do is find that middle ground consensus all of the time, where everybody gets a little something at any given time and everybody agrees essentially, and this is where the consensus comes in, that everybody agrees that where you are heading, all those mini micro decisions that you've taken represent, to a certain extent, the way forward. And if you were able to then draw back in retrospect, you'd be able to see kind of where you went and where all of those, the balance or where that line fell. And again, it's going back to, it's all about balance. And so sometimes, and there's multiple points of information and different variables that are taken into account when making those decisions. And so sometimes it may look as though something is off balance, and it may look as though it privileged or it advantaged a certain group or certain type of stakeholder or certain stakeholders in particular more than somebody else. But when you start looking at it from a really meta perspective, my job, and that's the thing, is one of the hardest part of my job is so that the higher you look at, if you were to look downwards and there was this line, that ideally what I've done is I've found that middle ground everywhere. I've found that consensus. I've found that the balance ideally. So when you zoom in, it may look as though it's big mountains, ups and downs, and some people are happy and others aren't happy. But ideally, when you zoom out, you'd see that, wait a minute, that was actually pretty centered. That was pretty good. That was really the consensus. That is what I try and achieve. So it's all about balance. What do you think?